Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I am super excited to share with you this interview with a woman named Shana, who I met in just a random grief support group. She tells her story with such inspiration. She embodies everything that Grief Inspired is, and she has never even met me before. We use the same language, we use the same vocabulary. It is really, really a testament to what being grief inspired is. This is a fun podcast. She talks about the pain of loss, but she also talks about the life that her 18-year-old son, Zach, still brings to them, how she's handled the grief, how she's channeled her pain into doing amazing things for her community and for the world. I cannot wait to share Shana with you. So stay tuned. This is an episode you do not want to miss. I met Shana in a grief support group around child loss. And what I love about Shana, who you're going to meet today, is that she was inspiration from the get-go, from everything I saw about her. And we're going to talk about some of the things that she's created. And I'm just so excited because she really embodies the messaging that I'm trying to deliver to you guys, that loss can happen. We can be devastated, but we can also be inspired and create something new and unexpected when we embrace the future that we have, not the future that we want. So Shana, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm just so excited that we just kind of happenstance ran into each other, and I just immediately I was like, I see what she's doing, and I just reached out to you. So tell us why you were in a support group for loss of a
Lot.
child. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was there obviously because I lost a son, Zachary. It was 8 days before his 19th birthday. So obviously tragic and unexpected. But he was one of these kids who was born moving. Like the only thing he didn't do fast was be born. He came out running. Like he was just on the go and he wasn't happy unless he was pounding the pavement, doing something, going somewhere. He was just very adventurous and busy and very street smart, loved everything wheels and motors and cars and trucks and bikes and all of those things. And just very active and very kind and caring. And I might be a little bit biased, but he was definitely gorgeous and had the cutest like little dimples up here on his cheek. Not down here where normal people have them, but it was like up here on his cheek. He had this one like gorgeous little dimple and he had like we call it a shit-eaten grin. Like he just had this grin on his face lots of times when it was just like he knew it, like little mischievous type thing. But yeah, he was kind of like the gel that brought all his friends together. He brought, like, I don't know about all communities because I've only lived here, but we have like different sections of kids, like go to different high schools, go to different sport facilities, but he brought them all together. So he would invite everybody from every group where the groups on their own would have just stayed on their own. So he was like the leader in like bringing everyone to go on adventures. He would just like literally probably Snapchat and be like, anyone want to go to the valley today?
Hey, it's Catherine, and I want to quickly interrupt this video to remind you to come and hang out with us in the grief inspired community on the school.com platform. We hang out twice a week on live Zoom calls to help you move forward in grief and to inspire you to honor your loved one and embrace the future that is ahead of you. You can do this. You don't have to do it alone. We are going to be there to support you. I can't wait to meet you there. Click the link below in the description. He was larger than life, so to speak, right? When we use that term.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he
That really gives us a sense of how he was. So tell us what happened.
So we were down at my husband, his dad's parents. It's about a 3.5 hour drive away from home. And we were all down there for the weekend. And he was down there. He had his car because he was 18, almost 19, so he could drive. It was around quarter after 7 in the morning that it happened. So he was in a basically a head-on collision. On the roads are windy and turny and yeah, so head-on collision. He didn't survive. In my belief, he's probably pissed that he died in his car because I always worried about the motorcycle. And he used to say to me, Mom, if I die driving my motorcycle, know that I died happy. Never said that about the car. So depending on what you believe, but yeah, I'm thinking he's like, damn, that's not what was supposed to take me out. But
So this was completely unexpected. This is what we call, sudden death, right? Which is, so many people. I mean, I think it really, really rocks your world. There's no expectation. And so, how did you find out that this happened? Because you weren't with him, right?
we couldn't find him. We didn't know where he was. His car was gone. And he was an adventurer and stuff, so it wasn't untypical for him to be like adventuring somewhere, going somewhere. We didn't know like if he was going for coffee in Anakanish, which is the nearest town. We didn't know if he was there or if he was heading home. We weren't sure. And we still don't know to this day. We couldn't find him, couldn't get a hold of him. The reception's not really great down there, so was he not answering because he didn't have reception or whatever? And then after a while, when we were like talked to some people who had him on Snapchat map, and we kind of put some stuff together, and then on Facebook we seen that there was an accident about 40 minutes away, and it wasn't saying anything about like what it was, but I think we just knew.
Mm.
And so my husband and I left and drove to the accident, or as far as we could get. They tried to stop us because obviously they don't want people seeing or going. Um, but at that point, we still didn't even know if it was him or not. So, and I'm such like, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. So I said to him, like, if we keep going, are you gonna like lose your job? And he was like, no. And I'm like, okay, peace. Like, we're leaving. We're gonna go through. And he's like, okay, you do what you have to do. But no, I said no. Um, so we left and we got to the scene like back a ways. We didn't see his car or anything, but um we were stopped by the police there, and then it kind of all came together that it was him. And yeah, so it was obviously a shock and pretty devastating. And then having to turn around and get in the car and go back and tell all our family. It was, yeah, I actually haven't shared a whole lot of that part of the story because it is so raw and it's so like, yeah, it's just,
And we talk so much about, that timeline. There's like, like that moment, right? Because even the time leading up, like we don't know if it's him, right? We're not sure. Like that's like before you find out. And then there's this like delineation in time when you know and
yeah.
you're sure. And then everything about your life from there on is forever changed. Whatever trajectory that you were on, any plans that you had, it's all blown up into smoke.
Yeah. Life as we knew it was no longer the same. On a summer day, like I said, we usually have his birthday celebration down there. So not only oh, he was very charismatic too, and not only was he like he loved all the gifts and the attention and all the things, and so he would get a couple of birthday celebrations because we would have a celebration down at his grandmother's for his birthday, and then we'd have another one at home for people up here and whatever. So he got multiple birthday things. So like his birthday cake was in the fridge for, like, so it was just, yeah, it was a really,
things that are like that just make loss even more gut-wrenching.
Right. And then I
Yes.
remember someone said they put it in the freezer, which, okay, that makes sense. You put a cake in the freezer I don't know whatever happened to the cake, to be honest, but we didn't
Okay.
eat it.
We didn't
Um,
eat the cake.
we
Oh
didn't
my
eat
goodness.
it, but we do celebrate his birthday every single year. Still, I say every single year. It's been, well, that year was a little bit foggy. No idea what we did.
Yeah, that's very common.
Like, no
Exactly.
idea. Obviously planning a celebration of life and stuff like that coming up to his birthday. But every year we open up our garage and just like his friends and our family all come over and we let off balloons. I know it's not good for the environment, so I probably shouldn't have said that. But it's our way of for the kids because the kids have like the hardest time being able to connect all the pieces. Because we have some smaller ones in our family that are like one's now 2 and 6 and 7. So like, we have some younger kids that we try to incorporate stuff that they can kind of connect to so that they feel
You talked a little bit about like the sense of community, right? And how do you feel like your community really rallied around you sort of during this time?
absolutely like, we were very, very fortunate um with our family and our close friends and our neighbors and just everybody kind of come out of the woodwork. Um, to be there and help and do whatever they could. Um, so like I know my sister-in-law, she just lives up the street. Like she kind of led planning the celebration of life and helped with some of our other good friends jumped in and they all just like they would just ask us like what do you want? And if we couldn't make a decision, it was fine. But we just would be like we wanted it to not be like a boo-hoo, like cries that he's gone. We wanted to celebrate all that he has brought to this world, and we wanted to continue to bring what he brought to the world because he's not here physically to bring it anymore. So like he loved candy. So at his celebration of life, we had like a candy table. I think my sisters and them they bought all the candy to go at this table and all in the jars and it looked really cute, like almost like a wedding type, candy station. And we had like garlic fingers and wings because he loved garlic fingers and wings. So we did everything. It was all about him and who he was and what he did. And
Love
yeah.
that so much. I was just having a conversation. So my son's 12 right now, and I just had a conversation with him yesterday, and I said like it's amazing how they turn into their own people, right? Like you when they're little, you're like, "No, you do what I say." But then they turn into his own person, and Zach being, almost 19, he really was, and he had all of the friends in the community and all the people who loved him. And I know you showed me when we talked before, like the apparel that you have that kind of commemorates and honors him that you said you see. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. After like things settled down, what can I do that like I don't want him to be forgotten. Like I want him to be remembered and I want to see his face and I want it to be that when I see his face, I remember all that he brought, not be sad that he's not here. So I wanted his face everywhere and anywhere I could get it so that he was still alive in my eyes, like not obviously physically, but his face was still in the world. So I created, so I don't know if you can see, but
Oh,
this is one of the shirts I made.
no.
I was a photographer, so I took lots of pictures and he hated it. Like he hated me taking his pictures. But I got them when I could get them, and I'm glad I did now um,
Yeah.
because I have so many really good photos of them, and some of them I didn't take, other people took, and I'm glad that other people took these photos. Um, like this picture here This is a blanket I made and put him on there. So one of his friends would have took that picture, and then I just made it into it says riding the golden streets. So I just made all this stuff, and I made keychains and air fresheners and pop sockets and anything I could put his face on.
I
Like
love this so much. No, I mean, a lot of us have sort of, we need that creative outlet. And I love that you did it in this way.
we also made stickers. So we have stickers that have him on them and his name, and then we have one with a QR code that you can scan and it takes back to his Facebook page. So when we travel or whatever, we put these stickers up everywhere and we give them to people who've traveled. And he's actually been like around the world. There's posts on his Facebook page that
I love that so much. So I'm just learning about this. I didn't
yes,
know,
I
we
know.
didn't talk about this before. I love this. What an amazing idea with the Facebook page. Oh my gosh, love it so much.
People who will take that extra time and take a picture and post it, like, just means so much to Darcy and I and Jaden, our younger son. I did all these different things and, with collaboration with other people. And with lots of help because he had so many friends. Like probably could be making keychains and air fresheners like 24/7, and I wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand because so many people want them and love them. And one of the things people are like, well, I don't want to get my sweater dirty or I don't want to get my keychain dirty. And I'm like, there wasn't a piece of his clothing that didn't have grease stains on it or rips or tears or whatever. I was like, get it dirty.
Right.
Live like he lived. Get it dirty. So, like, grease stains, they're not really big, but you can see them. And
This is what perfection looks like. Oh.
And that's what his shirt is saying. That's the shirt he's wearing on that day. But yeah, so first day I wore this, I'm changing a battery in a car and get grease on it, and I'm like, thanks, Zach. Like, just making my clothes look like yours.
And so this is all so positive, so inspiring. Was there something that made you want to do this, or do you think it was just sort of like who you are? Because I want everyone to be like you are, to be devastated, of course, right, by our loss, but also inspired to keep their memory alive, and however we choose to do that, right? The way you're doing it. What do you think, what do you attribute that to?
There's a number of things. One is that it was a choice that I made. I consciously get up every single day and choose to live, and it is exhausting. It is not easy. It would be much easier probably if I just stayed in bed with my covers up over my head and didn't do anything. But I'm gonna live for him because he can't. And because he lived such a like amazing life, but because he lived and he can't live, that I just want to do all the things and experience all the things. And I know that life is so short and we're not promised tomorrow at all. So I just want to try to get in all the things I can do. But I also like those fill up my cup to make me be able to continue on. They fill up the energy piece that I need to be able to choose to be positive, to live my life. But it all started, Zach was 5. So our neighbors next door we didn't really know them at the time when we first met them, but they started babysitting Zach when he was about 2, and she babysat him and just accepted him into the family. And I don't know if you know much about Canada, but there's always a saying like people from Newfoundland are like just the coolest people and like just fun, and people from Cape Breton are quite similar to people in Newfoundland. And anyway, they were a Cape Breton Newfoundland family and adorable, loved them. They had 3 children, and Zach was just a part of the family. So we became really good friends over the years, and when their son was 18, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh,
And Zach was 5, and I had just had my younger son was a year old. I had a really hard time.
yeah.
Feel like this was an important part because I went through a big loss of our neighbor's son who we adored and loved and cared about. But that sent me into a journey of like, what do I believe in? Like, why would God take such a like gorgeous person from a gorgeous family that was so kind and like why? Like I just couldn't understand. So I spent about 2 years kind of pondering this, doing research, looking into it, trying to find something that I was okay with accepting as the truth. But I found something that made sense to me, sat well with me. Did it make it any easier? No. I'm still mad, still hate it, but going forward, no, I need to focus on that piece, not my piece of like, it's not fair, it shouldn't have happened, like the negative victimized piece. Because it isn't fair and it shouldn't have happened. None of us should be in this position, but we are. Um,
Do you
so
think that that really helped you then when Zach passed on, just because it sounds like you did some of that work up front to process how these things can even happen to
yeah,
anyone.
well, exactly. And as a mom of two young kids, 5 and 1, I'm like, well, if it can happen to them, then it can happen to anybody.
When it hits close to home, yeah.
It does hit really close to home. And so, yeah, I contribute that piece as kind of the foundation. And I don't know if I'd be exactly where I'm at today without that piece,
Mm.
um, which sucks, but it was part of my story and it's part of my life. And I went through it. And I think it's made things go a little bit faster for me through my journey now. On top of that, I also had my nephew, Stevie, in 2020, died in a car accident.
Oh,
So not quite 2 years before Zach died, he died, and they were like two peas in a pod. He lived out west, so he wasn't here a lot, but when him and Zach were together, they were just so much like busy, charismatic, fun, entertain, like want to do run races and do things like just energetic boys, right? So that hit our family and that hurt. And so then that put me into another piece of because he was 20 and it was just before his 21st birthday to
well, and
another.
all of these things, what I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, right? The way I see it is like all of these things sort of made you look at grief, made you look at loss. They were so close that, sometimes I talk about, we kind of want to avoid our grief, right? And if we can, we would avoid it, we would push it down, we would ignore it. But like these are things like when they're this close to you, people that are either family or friends that are really close, like you can't ignore it. Like it's in your face and so it's almost like forcing you to start to deal with it. And and my belief is any type of, whether you call it recovery or healing from grief, is all about like you have to look at it, you have to process it, you have to deal with it, you can't just avoid it. So it sounds like you also, yeah, moving through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go through the storm. You can't stay
Hmm.
bunkered down in your bunk. And so those big pieces had a lot to do with obviously my grief. Like you said, I was kind of catapulted into that anyway and not able to avoid it, and having those experiences. Not that it made it at all like easy when Jack died, like at all. It was not easy, as you know, and as I'm sure people can imagine who haven't had a loss or have had a loss, of any kind. We know how hard it hurts our heart.
Losing our children is its own unique kind of special, especially difficult pain, and sudden loss is also really difficult. And yeah, and then the other close losses. So yeah, so you have plenty, and this is where I'm going with this, is you have plenty of excuses to not be a smiling person, to be very miserable, to not be creating things in the world. And that's where I want to go next. Right. And yet you are, and you're here, and and you're talking about him. And like, I know how much already, like, your story is going to impact other people. And so and I just want you to know that there is for sure someone watching this now with their covers up over their head, but they've come to YouTube or wherever because they're looking for a change. And they're like, I don't want to stay here in this misery. And so I think you're a tribute to that, of how you do that.
So through the whole last 2 years, Darcy's cousin, which I say she's my cousin because her and I are closer than her and Darcy, but Darcy's my husband. Anyway, Chrissy is her name. So she does astrology, like studies astrology and loves it. And so it's really interesting because as I talk to her and I say things, she's like, well, that's because of this and that's because of that. And, so she's said to me a couple of times, like, you're going to write a book, you're going to write a book. And I'm like, I'm not going to write a book. I'm not going to make a book. I'm not going to write a book. I'm not going to do anything, because she's like, nope, you're going to do something. And I see it in your chart and it's there. So she said it a couple of times. And then in January, she says it and it like clicked something in my head. So, like, just January passed. So, like, last month. So she said it again. And I'm like, ah. And I had an idea, and then it just, like, I sat on my computer. I'm gonna write like a grief journal, something that people can use to write down all the thoughts that, because grief is hard and it is raw and it is ugly and messy, and people have things to say that they can't say out loud, or they shouldn't, or they don't want to for fear of being judged or looked upon. So I wanted to make an outlet for people to be able to have somewhere that they can write down their deepest, darkest feelings, thoughts, secrets, and whatever. Because I feel like if we get them out on paper, get them out, then we can process them. If we keep them in there, they're just swirling around and they're not going anywhere, and it's not productive and it's not helpful. So I started with that, but I had no idea where to go. And because it was so close to my heart, being grief, like, I was just like, I couldn't do it right away. Then I made a mushroom coloring book because I like mushrooms, and that's one of the things I like doing. Is if I'm out in the woods, I like looking for mushrooms because they're really cool and they grow all different weird things. Like, it's weird. There's some magic in mushrooms, some people believe, and whatever. So I just thought, oh, that'd be kind of cute. So I made a mushroom coloring book. Then I turned and made a grief coloring book as kind of the start of trying to figure out where to go. But then I worked on, because a part of all of this is like the whole healing, like, of your past wounds and who you are, and like accepting myself for who I am. And like, this is very much outside my comfort zone, like doing this, but because I'm on this journey and I know that it's okay. I made a healing journal slash coloring book for people with ADHD, because I have ADHD. And so that's where I started. And this is the book. I'll show you here. This is the proof copy, so don't mind that. But it's Organized Chaos, a healing journal and coloring book for the beautifully distracted. ADHD edition is what it's called.
Love it.
And then inside is just like, there's different things. So there's like coloring and prompts. And like, I have like a gratitude bingo. Like, just all kinds of different things, like the glow up goals for my hot mess life. Like, just kind of making it funny. Like, I really leaned into the dark humor. I have a really bad sense of humor, dark sense of humor, but so there's little pieces of that in all of my work that I've done. And like, just encouraging people to take those steps forward. So like this self-improvement question is like, what's one thing I'll regret not doing a year from now? So like this talking to you could have been one of those things that I'd regret if I had a said no. I then made a second one that is called Perfectly Imperfect, and it's a healing journal and coloring book for the bold and the beautiful. And it's about self-love. And I just kind of created the grief coloring book and the grief journal. So the grief journal is just coming out actually today. I think it's on Amazon, but it's like this, and it's got quotes in it about the process being messy. There's a lot of swearing, a lot of F words because I say the F word a lot. It's helped me. I like saying it. I like using it, and other people might too. So I went with it. It's just all kinds of little prompts, but there's like a word search, and there's mazes, and there's coloring, and there's connect the dots. Like it's really for that child in us to that adult body. Trying to think of what I would have liked at the time. And these are really, the books I made are really focused on the early stages when you're in that anger, when you're in that like really mad place. I guess you can have that later on too, but I know like it's so raw early on.
Yeah, that's why I instantly knew, like when we talked, that you were like one of my people, right? Because there are times when, yes, like you need to use the F word, and especially when it comes to grief, I think that's super important. Yeah, and I do, it's interesting that you're saying this, is because in my community, right? I try to create, or I do create, a very safe, non-judgmental place for specifically for that reason, because I want people to be able to say the things that are in their head that you wouldn't say to, let's say, your friends and family, like the things that you don't want them to necessarily hear. But I believe that there's a lot of healing in those things, because if they're in the back of your mind, we also have the phrase around here, you need, like, and you said it a couple of times earlier, you need to get your grief out. You need to get it out. And all of that needs to come out as part of healing. So yeah, so it's all in keeping with sort of what we do over here at Grief Inspired. So it's awesome. Well, and I love the evolving, right? Because clearly, I mean, it's very clear to me, and I assume it's clear to you, but maybe not, right? That that this loss of Zach, and even the losses of the other folks that you mentioned, right? That it's done something to you. It's fundamentally changed you, and you have the energy that I considered to be grief inspired energy, that you want to create change in the world, that you want to help others, that you want there to be positivity that's coming out, whether it be building awareness or or coloring, right, and helping people through their grief. And to me, that is just, it's a message worth sharing. And yeah, and I guess my advice is like, keep sharing, like keep going, because you don't know what will unfold. And I think that, I know that my life is like, I still look, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Right. But what I have learned is to always say yes to the things that feel right, even, especially the ones that scare the crap out of you.
Exactly.
Right. So if it feels right, but you're scared, that's the stuff that you need to say yes to for sure.
And I think sharing my story and meeting other people, and it does seem like we're very much aligned on our like our goals and our purposes, is like we want people to see that you can be both happy and sad at the same time. Like I am never not sad. I will always be 50% sad. My whole entire
Yes.
the piece of my heart is missing, but I'm going to be 50% happy to do all the things as long as I'm here and I have the ability to do it. And I want people to be not afraid to talk about grief either, but I want people to be having these conversations in their real life so that they're not so uncomfortable when it happens to someone they love. I remember walking, it was early on, and we were in Walmart, me and my husband, and we hadn't seen this person, and we turn the corner and we go down an aisle and look up. It's someone who we know, and the blood just drains from their face. Like, oh my God, there's the parents that lost the child, and I know them, and now I'm gonna have to speak to them. Like the
And they're
fear,
like,
I get it. 100% get it because it's not comfortable at all. But I'm like, but we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable and we need to be able to have these conversations. We need to be able to say, like, that really sucks. That was hard. And I think that was part of like, okay, we need to just make it more normal. Like, people die. That's the one thing we can guarantee every freaking one of us is gonna do. We're all gonna die.
I love the phraseology so much. In case anybody else gets into this situation, to be to just be real and just to be able to say, I don't know what to say,
Right.
but I see you, right?
Hmm.
I see you. I want to acknowledge you. My heart breaks for you. I have no idea what to say, right? And
And
especially, and again, I think that loss of a child is even more difficult for the people who see you as the one who has lost your right, because it's like a whole nother level of discomfort, and in the spirit of authenticity and potentially making people angry, right? Like, I'm just going to come out and say it, right? Because you were brave, and so I'm going to be too, right? That people go, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, right? Which is fine. It's a perfectly fine, but it's almost like when you've lost a child and they have children of their own, they go, I'm so sorry for your loss, but oh shit, I'm so glad it wasn't me.
right. Or when they say, I can't imagine.
Right. You're like,
I
well, yes, you can.
or I couldn't do it. So, okay, that one might be a little bit triggering to me. I couldn't do it.
Right.
Well, yes, I would have said that before I
Right.
had no choice but to do it.
Right.
Like I could have lived a miserable life with my head buried in the sand and miserable. He would be so mad if that's the option that I chose. He would have been like, he's here. I believe in energy and I believe in things, and I see lots of signs from him. And I'm pretty sure he'd be throwing boulders at my head in bed if I was doing that because he wouldn't want that for me. And I know people say, oh, they wouldn't want you to be sad, but I really
But
know
I
deep.
I love that though, right? Because honestly, the fact that you like have that awareness of that's how he would be, I mean, it is a little bit like a kick in the pants. Like, like I'm sure you have the days where you're like things aren't so good, but if you have him in the background going, you got to do this. I mean,
So
it's a
I
gift, honestly, a gift from him, from
am.
the other side, so to speak.
Yeah. One of his friends came here, and I love when they come here and they tell us stories or they show us videos or pictures or whatever. Like, it's just, especially when they're new stories we haven't heard before, like, it's just so cool. I've accepted that I have emotions. I'm a very emotional person, but I'm actually much better at regulating them now. When I am emotional or I have that down day, what I do to help is I'm like, okay, I'm having a shitty day and I'm really like overwhelmed or feeling really full of grief today. I allow it without any, like, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to have, we sometimes call them a potato day, where you just do nothing. You like doom scroll all day, do nothing, do no housework, don't go anywhere, just nothing. But we're not going to live there. And that,
Exactly what I say. That's exactly what we talk about. You don't want to set up camp there. You don't want to stay there. You don't want to hang lights and have a fire pit and do all the things.
but you are entitled to have those feelings and those
Mhm.
emotions and go through them and explore them and sit with them and feel bad for yourself and have the pity party, but don't live there in the pity party or the sadness. Like,
I had a therapist who used to call it, she's like, have yourself a pajama party. Like, just, you
hmm.
don't have to get out of your pajamas. You just stay, wherever you need to be. Yeah. And just do it. And no, that it's so necessary. I mean,
So
and to be honest, I still do it.
right. I think that's a part of life. Like, I think that's something everybody should do times. Yeah, so Tim Hortons is like, it was Canadian, it might be US now, I don't know. And this whole thing about our two countries, I'm not going to stop buying the Tim Hortons. I can't, because every single day I got up, whether I got dressed or not, I got in the car, I went to Tim Hortons, I got an ice cap, and I came home. And that there, I think, contributed just to keep the momentum going.
Love that.
Um,
Yeah.
like I can't, it was a crutch. I still use it as a crutch. I still go get them every day, but it brings me joy and just starts my day with something that I really love. And I decided early on, every single day, do not stay here all day. Go get that ice cap every day.
Well,
And
I like the forward movement. I mean, and you have so many like good tools and pieces of advice for people. I love this so much. There are people here who are earlier in their grief, who, like we said before, they're kind of in their bed, covers up, not wanting to leave the house. What advice do you have for them, or what would you want to tell them, given where you are now?
I want people to know that it is okay to do that, but you need to be able to put one foot forward every day. Just do something little, whether it's get up and shower today and put on some clothes, or whether it's to put on clean pajamas after you shower, but just to be able to keep doing something little, not to overwhelm yourself and not beat yourself up about it, but figure out how you can feel those emotions, sit with them, and process them, not avoid them. We have to cry. It's okay to cry. It's a terrible thing that happened, and it's okay to be sad, mad, angry, all of the things. Like, grief is not linear, there's no timeline. But you have, in order to live, we have to be able to just little bit at a time, one day at a time. I took 1 minute at a time some days. I was just like, I can't think about anything in the future except for what I'm doing right this second and in the next minute. Like, and that's okay. But keep going. Just keep going.
It's incredible, right? Because you haven't really followed me much. We kind of just met, and you are literally embodying like what grief inspired is about. That like move forward, and be inspired. And so it's just
Yeah,
sorry, I'm having a moment because it's amazing. But keep
that's
going.
okay.
Finish what you were gonna say.
No, I just think that, it's important and to do things that you love. And my things that I loved changed after Zach died. Um, Not necessarily like I didn't do arts and crafts anymore, but I like found different, like I never made a book before. I wasn't doing resin things, but I started doing resin. Like read a book or do like just do things to make yourself feel human a little bit at a time and, you know, go out when your friend calls and says, "Do you want to go for coffee?" and you feel like, "Hell no, I'm not doing that." Just do it. Like, and they might say things that are like wrong or whatever, but at least they're saying something, I looked at the world a whole different way. Like I have way more compassion for people. I was very empathetic anyway, but I just feel like I don't get triggered. I get triggered by that one little sentence, but for the most part, I don't get triggered by a lot of things because I recognize that we're all on our own journey. We're all got our own personal background, our own beliefs, our own upbringing, our own DNA, own everything. No one is exactly the same, and people are doing the best they can. People don't wake up in the morning and be like, "How can I make Shanna miserable today? I'm gonna tell her that, well, at least he's in a better place." No one means that. No one wants that. They don't know what to do. It's like educate people. And if you're in the pits of grief, like early, fresh, new, they don't know what you need and you don't know what you need, but communication is key. We have to talk about it. We have to tell people. We have to ask for the things we need. Matt Rife, do you know who he is?
Oh yes.
Oh my God. I have so many things that help me. Like,
He's
and he,
wonderfully inappropriate.
I love him. Like I love him so much. Like I watched him like when I was really down and really sad. He was just coming up, like coming. So
Yep.
I watched every single thing I could find about him because dark humor,
Yep.
I'm all over that. Love him so much. And he actually contributed to like just bringing a smile to my face because when he would say something, and you can see when it wasn't planned, it just came out of his mouth, and he even thinks maybe I crossed the line. You can
Yep.
see the look on his face when he's like,
Yep.
how's the audience gonna take this? And I just eat that right up. Love it.
Find anything, right, as you're going about your day, no matter what it is, even if you're just scrolling, like, because he's all over TikTok, right? And if you're scrolling, you're going to find him. And if you're
Yeah.
watching this, well, now he's going to pop up on your phone because we know that's what Facebook does. Anything that makes you feel a little lighter,
Yeah.
a little bit of joy,
A
lean
little
into
more.
that.
Yeah.
And for you, he was it, right? And yeah, and in many ways, me too. You know, in different times in my life, like after my dad died. So yeah, I mean, it's whatever works, right? Keep leaning into that.
At
It's
the end
great.
of the day, like the other thing I realize is not trying to sweat the small stuff. Like one of my sayings when people are going through a hard time or something happened, and yeah, it's not great, but I'll be like, but did anybody die? And if the answer is no, then right,
Because you're like, nope, been there, done that. Have the t-shirt. Like,
literally have the t-shirt. I have all of it. Bought it, bought, sold, wore the t-shirt. And I want people, as much as the world is crazy and all kinds of things, and I know we have to live, and I know there's so much stress, but everything can be figured out. Everything is figure outable.
Audible. I just wrote that this past week. Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard that, I heard it a long time ago, but I'm like, if nobody died, then we got it. Like we
Right.
can do anything
And
because
it
no,
really is. I mean, grief will shift the way you look at everything, but there are for sure gifts that come out of loss. And not everybody gets that. If you've been through a loss and you're on kind of the other side, in a sense, like that you've processed a lot of it, like you get it. But and
I
this is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think willing to accept that like I know my life has completely changed. Like I was who I am, but it has enhanced a lot of qualities that I needed to work on. It made me better at communicating and expressing myself, how I what I need from like my husband and I, like I worked really hard on understanding him and seeing from his point of view and being able to communicate properly so that he understands. Like I sit and relax now. Like I
Yep.
can
Me too.
write a
Hmm.
book. Like I can sit and I've been knitting. Like I've been knitting dishcloths. They're super easy and it keeps my hands busy. So I just do all these things, but do all the things in order to survive the day, to give me the energy to survive the not survive, but to live my life with the grief. You wanted me to share about the tattoos, and I totally went.
We did. So we are going to leave you with this because this is incredible. Tell us about well, show your tattoo.
Yeah, okay.
It's a diamond.
It's a diamond. So, funny thing is when you asked me when I mentioned it when we talked first, I was like, like it was so like in the early stages of the grief and the loss that I was like, I don't know how that I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was me who decided to do it, but I was like, I don't want to come on here and tell the story if I'm wrong. So I literally text like a few people. I was like, tell me the story about the diamond. How did the diamond become a thing? And we figured out I got it first, and I remember now he had a tattoo. I was like, I want to get a tattoo, and he had a tattoo here on his arm that was his. He was a Virgo, and it was the Virgo sign with galaxy night sky in the background. So I was like, I'm gonna get his tattoo. Like I thought, oh, that would be cool. Like have his tattoo, maybe even the same place, whatever. Then come to find out when I was telling his friends, they were like, he didn't like it.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
he didn't like it. And they were like, he didn't like it because when it faded, the pinks and purples were like more girly, pink and purple for a guy who's full of grease and likes to burn his tires. This is not the cool tattoo to have. So he had this other tattoo, the diamond, on the back of his leg, which was a stick and poke that his girlfriend at the time put on him. So I was like, well, let's get the diamond. I'm gonna get the
Tell
diamond.
people what a stick and poke is, because I didn't know what a stick and poke is.
Okay, so from my understanding, never done it, but it's like this ink that you can buy, and it comes with a needle, and you literally dip it in and poke and stick and poke it on your body in the shape of your tattoo, whatever you want to
This is
draw.
like at home tattooing.
It is 100% at home tattooing. Now, he told me he got it at Michael's, the craft store. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they sell it. It could have been ink for an inkwell. I don't know. I didn't ask, but so I decided to get the diamond, and my very first tattoos after he died, I got this one here that says keep going
Love it.
and breathe,
Also good advice.
and that.
And the diamond.
So I was like, I need a name, and then Diamond in the Sky came up.
Diamonds are created.
Yes, so under pressure, they are created and they come out beautiful, and everybody wants them, and they're worth a lot of money. And so when I thought about it, A, he had the diamond, but also that just like a lotus, it is beautiful and it comes out of mud, like and swampy areas, and it grows this beautiful thing. So I felt like it really represented like kind of the healing journey for me, and just getting like he's in this like he, if you believe in heaven, is in the sky or in the stars or whatever. So Diamond in the Sky was, yeah, just kind of came from that being, diamonds have quite a journey, but come out beautiful on the other end. Yes, so me, my husband, and my son, Darcy and Jaden, and my sister-in-law, her husband, and her two kids all have the diamond in different places. We all have it in different places, got it at different times.
This is all just so wonderful, and I could talk to you forever.
I
So
probably
this is so great. So yes, we're definitely going to have you come back at different times to see how things unfold for you. But thank you so much for sharing, Zach, with us and the story and all of the things that you're doing. And you really are what I consider to be grief inspired. And that it warms my heart. It makes me thankful and grateful for what I do. And I want to thank you for sharing with all of my followers here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm glad. I feel like it's just one more thing the universe has put in our paths, and we were meant to meet and talk, and yeah. So I'm glad that you reached out, and I'm glad that we're here.